welcome to this video on the Big Four accountancy firms. In this video, we'll be covering an intro to the Big Four. We'll put their size and scale into perspective by looking at their reported turnover figures, as well as discussing some of their key services, including audit, tax, and corporate finance. And as always, thanks for tuning in, and ensure you hit the like and subscribe button if you like our content. As well as showing your appreciation, it helps to build the channel and increases the chances of others getting to see the content, which means a lot to us. So thank you. Before we jump into things, I thought it might be helpful to cover a bit of background on myself. As some of you may know, I used to work in an investment bank. I have pretty extensive experience within corporate finance and specifically M&A, but you might not know that I actually started out my career at a Big Four firm. Starting out in audit as a graduate of university, I worked and studied for 3 years towards my accountancy qualification. At certain points in the video, you might detect a bit of cynicism towards audit, but I only mean that in a tongue-in-cheek way. Please don't be mistaken, because audit was an invaluable foundation for my career, and you can start an audit and go on to do and achieve anything. And this is really important too. Although this video only focuses on the Big Four, there are limitless possibilities to any chartered accountant, whether or not you qualify with a Big Four firm or not. That being said, let's get into it. So why have we got a picture of Shaq and Kevin Hart stood side by side? It's here for 2 reasons. Number 1, the Big Four have enormous scale, power and reach, and they dominate the big leagues. If the Big Four were a basketball player, there would be someone like Shaq, LeBron or Kobe, i.e. they're all-star players every single year. And number 2, however, despite their size, Kevin Hart and other accountancy firms alike will have their own unique capabilities and strengths. They will have their own competitive edge in different segments of the market, and despite being smaller in stature, are well known across the world and have amazingly talented people working for them. Checking out this picture, if one wasn't enough, then here's another. We've got Yao Ming, another ex-NBA player, stood next to Shaq, and the message here is simple. Within the Big Four, size is relative. Some are bigger than others, but they each will have their own unique capabilities. So let's have a look. Who are the Big Four firms? And as you can see, they each have their own unique and excellent full names. But in reality, apart from 2, PricewaterhouseCoopers and Ernst & Young, they're all known by their more popular, shorter names, i.e. PwC, Deloitte, EY and KPMG. Together, they dominate global professional services, hence why they're known as the Big Four. And just so you know, although they do offer corporate finance and M&A services, they're not investment banks. There are some parallels, but there are also some important distinctions, which we'll cover in a future video. If we check out the chart below, we can see that the Big Four are all multi-billion-dollar organizations, and over the past couple of decades, Deloitte and PwC have regularly traded for that number 1 spot. However, ranking is not everything. Their capabilities are all vast, and starting your career at any of the Big Four would serve you extremely well. And as mentioned earlier in the video, and far from an afterthought, the other top 10 accountancy firms also have significant scale and reach. Each firm will have its own unique capabilities, leveraged by its people, location and clients. Having said that, some of the latter names on the chart will be weaker in some services, particularly corporate finance. To give you an example, the Big Four are often able to close deals above 100 million on a regular basis. However, the smaller firms just cannot do this. Having said this, as I mentioned at the start of the video, if you're starting out, the key is getting qualified. That's your ticket and that's your passport for success. And if you really wanted to, you could always move to a Big Four firm later on. So that slide asked us the question, what do the big four firms do? And to be honest, at the end of it, they make money, and a lot of it. But to break things down further, they make money by offering three main services. They offer audit, tax, and corporate finance. It's a bit of a simplification because they will have an array of consulting services. But in essence, let's focus on audit, tax, and corporate finance. So number one is audit, and to help explain the point, let's look at these two images. What do they have in common? I'll give you a couple of seconds to have a think. Okay, so what do they have in common? They're both pictures of production lines. And if we think about audit, an audit is also a production line. So why is audit a production line? In order to understand this, it's helpful to think about it from the perspective of the Big Four firm hiring you rather than you working for them. From their perspective, it's not the most profitable service that they provide. However, it's very important to secure a client relationship. Once you've signed up someone as an audit client, you can then sell them more profitable services such as tax and corporate finance. So what is audit? Audit exists to meet the legal requirement of large firms to be audited. An audit report provides comfort to lenders, shareholders, and other stakeholders that the numbers are a true and fair view of a company's financial position. Audit is therefore pretty important, but as I mentioned, it's also priced pretty low to secure the client relationship. And that last phrase, ticking and bashing, that just relates to the fact that when you are auditing, you produce a sample and you tick through that sample and bash your results on your laptop. Just something to note, as is often mentioned in interviews. And just while we're on the topic of audit, let's ask ourselves this question. How does the opportunity sound to you to be around some of the world's largest organizations whilst learning from high caliber finance teams? Because that is the opportunity that audit can provide for you. So tax. Tax exists in the Big Four for one reason, and that's because it's legal to reduce your liabilities in certain ways. This is known as tax avoidance, and the Big Four are expert architects in doing this, and sometimes even influence the writing of the tax code. Whether you think that's moral or not, let's think about the PwC partner in Ireland that has helped to turn the country into one of the biggest tax havens in the world. Now, tax has many different facets to it, so you've got to do your own research to understand the stream that you are applying to. It's sometimes known as part of consulting, i.e. non-audit, and it generates a lot more money per head than audit. However, if your ambition is to be a financial controller, it's probably not the best place for you to start your career. And just like we did with audit, with tax, let's ask ourselves this question. How does probably specialising in tax for the rest of your career sound to you? Or an opportunity to transfer to some of the other consulting divisions. It is known for people to start their career in tax and then go on to corporate finance and M&A. However, for whatever reason, and you can deduce it for yourself, people don't start in tax and then move to audit. And I don't blame them. But it's something to think about. If you do want to become a financial controller, starting in tax isn't probably going to help you get there faster. So here we are at corporate finance. Last but not least, we have the fast-paced world of transaction services or M&A. Two different things. Transaction services relates to due diligence, VDD or FDD, i.e. vendor or financial due diligence. M&A, however, relates to the selling or acquiring of businesses as well as conducting a strategic review. They're very different. Sometimes collectively, they're known as working on deals, or deal advisory. And a question to ask yourself here. M&A will have its own unique characteristics and personalities that work there. So how does working with big personalities in high pressure but high reward scenarios sound to you? And you've also got to do that while passing your exams. It is something to bear in mind. So I thought we'd round up this video by asking ourselves a few questions as if we were looking to apply for a Big Four firm. And some of the questions I want you to ask yourself are listed on the slide, and we'll go through them one by one very quickly. Number one, what are your career goals? i.e., where do you want to be in 5 to 10 to 15 years time? Do you want to be a financial controller? Do you want to work in an investment bank? Do you want to run your own business? Do you want to be a tax specialist? A lot of these things are possible regardless of the stream that you apply for, but applying for the right stream can make that a lot easier. Number two, what can a Big Four firm offer that others cannot? Prestige. When someone looks at your CV, will they think better of it? Will it help keep doors open that would otherwise be closed? These are really important things, right or wrong, to think about when you apply for a Big Four firm. Number three, location and work-life balance. If you want to stay closer to home or work in a particular location, it might not always be possible to work for a Big Four firm, although it is quite common because they're scattered all over the UK. But it is something to think about in terms of work-life balance. You're going to be working for 30 plus years and it's important to enjoy what you do. So make the decision that's right for you. And number four, culture. Each of the Big Four and each of the top 10 accountancy firms and any firm in general will have its own culture, and it's important to understand what you're getting yourself in for. You can do this by watching videos like this, speaking to people who have been there and done it, and going on forums to try and deduce what it's like to work for a particular firm. And number five, would you like to do a secondment to corporate finance? And as mentioned earlier in the video, the reason why I'm asking this question is that the Big Four offer capabilities in corporate finance that the other top 10 accountancy firms cannot. So if you do have the ambition to work in corporate finance, my advice to you is to start out at a Big Four firm. And just finally, what was my experience like at a Big Four firm? In short, it was invaluable. I really enjoyed working with my colleagues who were super talented, and I learned a lot from them. I also learned a lot about myself and developed. And you do that by working hard and studying at the same time for 3 years towards your qualification. And after you qualify, there's lots of opportunities for you to move into different departments, including corporate finance, if that is something that you want to do. So really, my experience at Big Four firm was invaluable, and I would recommend that others seriously consider joining a Big Four firm if they do want to become a chartered accountant. So that was our video on the Big Four accountancy firms. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for tuning in. Hit me on the comment section and let me know what else you'd like me to cover about the Big Four firms in future videos. And once again, hit like and subscribe if you like what you've seen. And thanks for tuning in, and keep an eye out for our next video. All the best.